All right. So, a couple more chapters from the Old Republic, Annihilation. So, here we go. We're on chapter 22, which I think means we're getting fairly close to the end. There are actually 33 chapters, so we'll read 22 and 23 tonight. All right, chapter 22. Compared with the prosperity, the interior of the Imperial supply shuttle was cramped and uncomfortable. It had seating for four, but because most of the rear was occupied by the cargo hold, the chairs were jammed two by two in the cockpit with hardly any legroom. When Theron tried to sit in the pilot's seat, Tethys pushed him aside. "You sit in back," she ordered. Knowing she was still fuming over being forced to accompany them on the mission, he didn't bother to argue. Nosteral took a seat in the co-pilot's chair beside Tethys without comment. At least this Imperial uniform's a good fit, Theron thought, as he squeezed into the seat behind Tethys. But though it was the right size, he knew from past undercover experience that the cheap material of the cuffs and collar would still end up chafing his skin. Just one more reason nobody would ever enlist with the Empire, he thought to himself. A few minutes later, they were on their way to Reaver Station, a journey that would take roughly 10 hours at the shuttle's top hyperspace speed. Theron would have been fine passing the journey in silence, but Nosteral seemed to have other ideas. "Your friend Gorvich is an unpleasant man," he said to Tethys. "Gorvich is no friend, just work for him. Pays good." "So that's your driving motivation in life?" the Keldor asked. "Material wealth?" "Tell Ugly Face not to get all Jedi preachy," Tethys said over her shoulder to Theron. "Sorry," Theron replied. "Jedi can't help trying to save someone they think is in need of moral guidance. It's like a compulsion with them." "Don't need saving," Tethys said to Nosteral. "You don't mind spending your life surrounded by people like Gorvich?" "Just a stepping stone. Won't be there forever. Moving up the Brotherhood's ranks." "And when you do, you'll find those in charge are even more selfish, brutal, and vicious than Gorvich," the Jedi assured her. "Why are we really going to Reaver Station?" Tethys asked, changing the subject. "To rid the galaxy of a great evil," Nosteral replied. Tethys snorted. "Gorvich is plenty evil. Should rid the galaxy of him." "If you hate him so much," Theron asked from the back, "why'd you save him on Narshada?" "Don't leave partners behind, even scum like Gorvich. Part of being a team." The next few minutes passed in silence before she returned to her earlier line of inquiry. "What's going down at Reaver Station? Need to know if things get ugly." Excuse me. "Don't worry," Theron assured her. "You just need to drop me off and wait until inside the shuttle with Master Nosteral for a few hours while I take care of some business. That's it. Easy." "Too easy," Tethys replied. "Not your style." "Maybe I've changed." Another snort from Tethys ended all conversation until they reached their destination, and Theron allowed himself to slip into a light meditative trance. Yet another useful trick he'd learned from Nagani Zhou, to rest up and ready himself for what lay ahead. When they finally dropped from hyperspace, They had a clear view of Reaver Station. The massive spaceport was the size of a small moon. Struggling to look over Tethys' shoulder, Theron could make out an enormous capital ship docked on the far side, the Ascendant Spear. Go ahead and open a hailing frequency, Theron said, then added, better let me do the talking. Tethys clicked the transit button on the shuttle's control panel, but she didn't give him a chance to speak. Reaver Station, this is Imperial Shuttle TK37059 requesting permission to dock, she said, her heavily accented basic disappearing as her voice slipped into the precise, clipped cadence common to citizens of the Empire. Copy TK37059. Ready for clearance codes. Transmitting codes now, she said before clicking off the comm station. You've done this before, Nosteral remarked, clearly as impressed and surprised as Theron. Your accent is impeccable. Easy to fake imp fancy talk, she said, brushing away the compliment. The console beeped, and she pressed the button to reopen the channel. Excuse me. TK37059, you have clearance to land, the voice on the other end said. Proceed to Hangar 14 in D-Wing. Copy, Reaver Station, Tethys replied, then clicked off the channel a second time. I thought Gorvich said we were supposed to land in C-Wing, Theron said. Usually do, Tethys answered. So why the change? Maybe Gorvich sold us out. Want to turn back? Excuse me. Want to turn back? No, Theron said after a quick deliberation. Go ahead and dock. Tethys brought the shuttle into the open hangar bay for a landing, and the airlock doors closed behind them. A pair of guards, both human, both male, emerged from a door leading into the station, but they didn't act as if they were expecting anything out of the ordinary. Wait here, Theron told the other two, but be ready to bug out if something goes off the rails. Exiting the shuttle, he approached the two guards, trying to appear casual even as his mind was racing. There wasn't an ambush waiting for them, so Gorvich hadn't betrayed them, but if these guards weren't on the take, they might want to inspect the shuttle, and Theron couldn't let that happen. Gorvich didn't say anything about sending a fresh face on this run, one of the guards said. Theron let out a sigh of relief. He told me we were supposed to dock in C-Wing, Theron said, warming up to the part of the small-time thug working for the old Tyon Brotherhood. Had me worried. C-Wing's reserved for that giant capital ship you saw on your way in. Had to shift some stuff around. Could have given us a heads up, Theron said. Told Gorvich, the guard replied. Guess he didn't pass it on. Guess he wanted to make the new guy sweat, the other guard said with a laugh. Where's your friend? The first one asked, the one with the sexy voice. Staying on the shuttle, Theron said, keeping an eye on the cargo. Yeah? What's the haul this time? Stims, spice, banned holovids? Is this part of hazing the new guy? Theron asked. Gorvich tell you to waste my time with all these questions? Just trying to be friendly, one of the guards said. Maybe you can leave us a little free sample when you go. I think we're done here, Theron said. We keep chatting and someone's going to get suspicious. Fine, the first guard said, finally taking the hint. We got other shuttles coming in anyway. Just keep your head down and don't do anything stupid, rookie, the second warned him. You get caught, we don't know you. Theron waited for the guards to leave before returning to the shuttle. Everything's good, he said, giving a quick status update. Sit tight, everything goes smooth, and I'll be back in a few hours. May the Force be with you, Theron, Nosteral said. Don't mess up, Tethys said, offering her own words of support. Theron left the shuttle and exited the hangar, making his way onto Reaver Station, marveling at the size and scope. The Empire understood the need to let military personnel enjoy a break from their daily routine, but unlike the Republic, it was paranoid about soldiers deserting whenever they landed on a world. To offset this, they designed Reaver Station to have all the amenities anyone could expect in a planetary port city, giving the soldiers a place to relax, but leaving them no other options but to return to their ship when their leave was over. Spread out over the station's 4 levels was a wide assortment of shops, bars, restaurants, holotheaters, casinos, sport courts, and clubs, all packed with men and women eager to cut loose before returning to the drudgery and discipline of their assigned posts on their respective ships. Theron's plan was simple enough: sneak onto the Ascendant Spear while it was docked, slice into the computer systems, and plant the dormant virus. Next, he'd rig up the communications protocols to receive a special Republic transmission that would trigger the virus. Oh, and we are in an ad. Okay, well, that sucks, but that's okay. It's just part of it. All right, so I'll start back at Theron's plan when we come back from the ad. For those of you watching later that probably don't see the ad on YouTube, sorry. Part of being on Twitch. I do keep the ads to the bare minimum, though. I think it's like a minute per hour or something like that. So it's also why I don't make any money, but that's okay too. Okay, so it says we're back. So yeah, Theron's plan was simple enough: sneak onto the Ascendant Spear while it was docked, slice into the computer systems, and plant the dormant virus. Next, he'd rig up the communications protocols to receive a special Republic transmission that would trigger the virus when the time was right. Then he'd slip off the ship, head back to the shuttle, and get off the station with no one the wiser. The fact that Reaver Station was a secure military facility would only make things easier. The only people on board either served in the military or had special authorization to be here. Because of that, security on the ships actually docked at the station was bound to be lax. For a vessel the size of the Spear, there'd be a constant stream of men and women coming and going, heading out onto the station for some fun, then stumbling back to their bunks on the ship to rest for a few hours before heading out again. At most, they'd have to flash a boarding ID to the guard stationed at the hangar's entrance, a nod to the fact that nobody would be able to remember the names and faces of every person who was stationed on the ship. All Theron had to do was borrow a boarding ID from someone too drunk or preoccupied to notice it was missing, so he could forge a copy. But first he had to figure out where the crew members of the Ascendant Spear were gathered. The bonds among those who served together on a ship were strong, and most personnel on leave tended to hang out with the same people they worked beside day after day. They would congregate in the same general area of the station, their sheer numbers driving away most of those on the station who served on smaller vessels. He made his way toward an information booth located near the hangar base. "Welcome to Reaver Station, Corporal," the woman behind the desk said. Her voice was chipper, and she had a wide smile plastered across her face. But there was something in her eyes that made Theron think her cheerfulness was just a facade, the result of Imperial training to boost the morale of the men and women arriving for a few precious days of R&R. "Just got in on a supply run," Theron said. "First time here, looking for a good place to grab some grub." "Normally I'd suggest the Golden Galley," she said. "Great food, good prices, and you can have them take it off your payroll if you're a little short on credits. But you don't want to go there today." "Why not?" Theron asked, feigning ignorance. "Had a full capital ship arrive earlier today. They hit that place like a Fevzi swarm." "I'm not in a rush," Theron said. "Care to tell me how to get there?" Following the woman's directions eventually brought Theron to his destination. The woman at the information booth's description of a deadly Fevzi swarm was accurate. The restaurant and every other establishment around it was overflowing with men and women in uniform. They spilled out into the streets, forming haphazard queues to wait outside the doors of any spot that served food or drink. Theron slowly made his way through the crowd, searching for an easy target that could provide him with a boarding ID. Many of the bars he passed were projecting the feed from the official Imperial news holo where the crowd outside could watch as a way to keep the people in line from becoming too impatient and unruly. It was hard to hear the newscasters over the din of the crowd, but the sharp trill indicating a breaking story caught Theron's attention. He stopped and turned his head up to hear the latest Imperial propaganda. The Empire scored a major victory just hours ago with a surprising assault on the Republic agri-world of Rouen. A cheer rose from the crowd, but Theron was too shocked to join in. Rouen was a major producer of food for Coruscant and several other ecumenopolis worlds. I've never seen that word before. Ecumenopolis worlds. It was also deep inside Republic space, a planet most considered well beyond the reach of the Empire. Enemy casualties are estimated in the thousands as an Imperial fleet under the command of Moff Nazor unleashed an orbital bombardment that devastated production facilities on the surface and killed thousands of innocent civilians in the process. The Republic fleet in the area was destroyed, with enemy reinforcements arriving too late to affect the outcome of the battle. An official press release from the Office of the Minister of Wars reads as follows. Moff Nazor's resounding victory at Rouen demonstrates the strength of the Empire and exposes the vulnerability of the Republic. Those who say our enemy has gained the upper hand in the galactic war must clearly recognize this day as proof that the Empire is stronger than it has ever been. The Republic is unable to defend its own worlds, and her citizens tremble before the might of the Imperial fleet. Their defeat and eventual surrender is inevitable. All hail the immortal Emperor. Theron turned away from the holo, ignoring the raucous celebrations of those around him. As bad as the attack itself had been, what it represented was far worse. The holo claimed capital ships had been involved in the attack. That meant the orders should have been transmitted using the Black Cipher. SIS should have known the attack was coming, but somehow the Republic was caught completely unprepared. It didn't make any sense. Unless our cipher isn't working anymore. The relationship made Theron feel... I'm sorry, I said relationship. That was totally wrong. The realization made Theron feel physically ill. He needed to speak to the director. He needed to know what had gone wrong. If there was a leak in SIS analytics, they might have to scrap the entire mission. Abandoning the still cheering crowd around the Golden Galley, he ran back to the hangar where they had docked and scrambled up and into the shuttle. "Why you back so soon?" Tethys demanded as Theron burst in on them. "Something's wrong," he said, addressing Nostral. "I need to speak with the director or Jace, maybe both of them." "Impossible," the Jedi said. "We don't have a secure channel." Theron rushed up to the cockpit. He quickly surveyed the hangar through the window until he spotted a communications terminal in the corner. "I can slice into the Imperial comm channels," he said, "piggybacking our signal on the station's secure network. Scramble it with a basic SIS encryption and bounce it through half a dozen relays so nobody knows where it's originating from. Should buy us a minute or two of secure time." "Sounds risky," Tethys said. "We don't have any choice," Theron insisted, still speaking to Nostral. "What do you have to do?" the Jedi said. Theron exited the shuttle. What? Do what you have to do, sorry. Theron exited the shuttle and raced over to the comm terminal, pulling his custom-designed slicer spike from the hip pocket of his uniform. The spike was small, about twice the size and thickness of a pen, with a small interface cable extending several centimeters from the bottom. He plugged the cable into one of the terminal's access ports and turned the spike on. A second later, the spike's short-range signal synced up with Theron's cybernetic implants, allowing him to interface directly with Reaver Station's communications network. His fingers flew over the keyboard as the spike relayed streams of data to his implants. It only took a minute for him to burrow his way through the various levels of electronic security and gain unrestricted access to the network's core operating system. It took several more minutes to set up the encryption and the complicated system of relay jumps, but it was a necessary precaution. He'd used them to buy a few minutes of secure transmission before the station's automated network systems responded to the unauthorized intrusion and shut them down. He raced back over to the shuttle and climbed inside. Got it, he said, as he settled into the pilot's seat. Nosteral and Tethys crowded in on either side of him. Theron switched the shuttle's transmitter on, keying it to the same frequency as the terminal in the hangar. He had to work fast, so he fired off an emergency priority signal to SIS, knowing protocols would relay it immediately to the director wherever he was. A few seconds to the signal would only have made things more complicated. Theron, what's wrong? You heard about the attack on Rouen? Of course, the director said. I'm in a debriefing with the Supreme Commander right now. Is everything all right, Theron? Jace's voice chimed in. Where are you calling from? Reaver Station. Are you insane? The director sputtered. It's okay. The signal's secure for now. You can't know that, the director insisted. What if the... I don't have much time, Theron said, cutting him off. I think the mission's been compromised. Why? Jace demanded. The Empire should have used the black ciphers to transmit the orders to the capital ships. We should have known about the attack. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line before Jace said, We knew. You knew, Theron said, his mind struggling to grasp what he was hearing. Why weren't we better prepared? Why didn't you do anything? We sent medical supplies, food, and emergency volunteers, Jace replied. What about the reinforcements? Why were they too far away to get there in time? We should have scrambled one of our fleets. We couldn't, Jace said. The risk of tipping off the Empire was too great. If they found a fleet waiting for them on Rouen, they'd know we were intercepting their cipher transmissions. Horror slowly dawned on Theron as he realized what Jace was saying. You knew the Empire would wipe out our ships at Rouen. You knew they'd bombard the planet. Thousands of civilians are dead, and you did nothing to help them? I had no choice, Jace said, his voice cold. If we don't stop the Ascendant Spear, we don't stop this war. You're worried about thousands of innocent lives, but I'm worried about millions. Theron didn't say anything. He sat in the pilot's chair, speechless as Satil's warning ran through his mind. Jace fights this war out of revenge. It clouds his judgment. It can make him do terrible things if he believes they are necessary to save the Republic. Theron, Jace said from the other end of the transmission. Theron, are you still there? We're here, Nosteral spoke up. You have to see the big picture, Theron, Jace said. We have to wait for our chance to stop the spear, no matter how horrific these attacks may be. Attacks, Theron said, snapping out of his daze. Rouen wasn't the only one? Theron, the director's voice snapped. Your job is to get on board the spear. This doesn't concern you. Where will they strike next? Theron demanded, ignoring the director. Jace, where? Duro, the Supreme Commander said, with a heavy sigh. They're going to hit the shipyards in 36 standard hours. Duro was a heavily industrialized and densely populated world, though the planet itself was too polluted to support life. Billions lived in the orbital cities above it. An Imperial attack on Duro would have minimal long-term strategic value for the Empire, but the casualties for the Republic were almost too catastrophic to fathom. You have to stop them, Theron said. Set an ambush. Take out the Imperial fleet the second they enter the system. That's not going to happen, Jace told him. The Spear isn't going to be involved in the attack. We're increasing Republic patrols in the sector, the director said, but if we scale them up too fast, the Empire will grow suspicious. Theron, sometimes sacrifices have to be made, Jace said. But you have to draw the line somewhere. The Empire won't, so neither can we. Satil was right about you, Theron thought, remembering her final argument. Hate will transform you into the very evil that you are fighting so hard against. There's nothing you can do to stop this, Theron, the director told him. So do your duty, complete your mission. The Republic is counting on you. The transmission abruptly ended, though Theron wasn't sure if they had cut him off or if the Reaver's automated security systems had finally unraveled his tricks and disconnected the signal. And that's the end of that chapter. So we'll jump right on into 23. Theron stood up from the pilot's seat slowly, his body and mind numb. Theron, Nosterol asked, are you okay? The director was right, Theron replied. There's nothing we can do. An Imperial fleet is going to hit Duro and we can't stop it. Call back, Tethys suggested. Tell them you quit. There may be another way, Nosterol said. If the spear was part of the Imperial fleet attacking Duro, Jace would be willing to set up an ambush. But it's not, Theron said, his mind unable to follow where the Jedi was heading. The spear will still be here when Duro is attacked. Maybe not. Can you send off another message? Theron shook his head, used every trick in my bag to pull that off. The network security programs automatically adjust and adapt to slicer attacks. They'll be able to lock me out almost instantly if I try it again. Probably even trace the location of this hangar. Then we need someone to deliver it, Nosterol turned to Tethys. We need your help. Not trying anything to get us killed, she warned. All you have to do is deliver a message, he told her. Tell Jace Malcolm that the Ascendant Spear will be at Duro. She'll never be able to get a message to the Republic's Supreme Commander, Theron said, suddenly understanding where Nosterol was headed. But I know who can. Satele. I should have thought of her myself, the Jedi agreed. Go to the Jedi Conclave on Coruscant, he said to Tethys, speaking quickly. Ask for Grand Master Satele Shan. Tell her everything that's happened here. We fly Imperial Shuttle to Coruscant, we get blown from the sky, Tethys protested. Go back to Jagani Port and take my shuttle, Nosterol said. It's faster anyway. We leave, you two going to be stuck on Reaver Station, Tethys reminded them. From her tone, Theron wasn't sure if she was worried about them or sarcastically pointing out something obvious she thought they were foolishly forgetting. Theron and I can look after ourselves, the Jedi assured her. Tell the authorities that I sent you, Theron said. Grandmaster Shan will listen if you mention my name. Grandmaster Shan, Tethys said, her eyes narrowing suspiciously as she put two and two together. Theron Shan, you related? She's my mother, Theron said, the situation too urgent for him to even care whether Nosterol already knew. He expected Tethys to make some kind of comment, maybe ask why he wasn't a Jedi, but all she said was, What's in it for us? Another 10,000 credits, Theron promised, and a get-out-of-jail-free card if you're ever arrested in Republic space. Deal. Nosterol turned his attention back to Theron. You still need to get on the spear. If you don't sabotage the systems, Karad will be able to escape the Republic ambush. I'm on it, Theron said. What about you? I'm going to convince my old apprentice to take her ship to Duro. Pulling the hood of his cloak up over his head to obscure his features, the Jedi slipped out of the shuttle and took off, moving with the supernatural speed of one driven by the Force. Theron watched him until he vanished through the hangar door, leaving him with Tethys alone. Can I trust you on this? He asked the Twi'lek. Millions of innocent lives are at stake. 10,000 credits to deliver one message? Stupid not to do it. Good. Tell Satele Shan everything that happened here. She has to convince Jace to send the Republic fleet to Duro. Theron wondered what the director or Jace would say when they learned that a Twi'lek enforcer for the old Tion Brotherhood now knew all the critical details of their top-secret mission. He'd probably get court-martialed, and rightfully so, but he trusted Tethys. More important, he didn't have any other options. Not if he wanted to keep Duro from being the site of one of the world's bloodiest massacres. He started to leave... Did I say world? Wars. Bloodiest massacres. Sorry about that. He started to leave the ship, then paused to say one last thing to Tethys. Remember, he warned her, double-cross us, and you don't get paid. Got it, she said, her Leku flicking in annoyance. Said stupid not to do it. We not stupid. Nosteral was little more than a blur of motion and movement as he raced through the corridors of Reaver Station. The Imperial soldiers he flew past reacted with a mix of surprise, curiosity, and alarm, but he came and went so fast none of them fully realized what had happened. Left in his wake, they exchanged a few puzzled glances with their friends, then laughed off the odd but seemingly harmless encounter as their minds convinced them that the person who'd just run by couldn't possibly have been running that fast. He didn't know exactly where he was going, but he let the Force guide him. When they'd first arrived at Reaver Station, he had gently reached out with his mind until he sensed his former Padawan. Now he was using her familiar presence, shrouded in the dark side, but still unmistakable after so many years, as a beacon to guide him to her. At the same time, he was careful to mask his own presence so as not to warn her of his coming. As he drew closer, it would be impossible to completely hide himself from her awareness should she suddenly choose to focus her thoughts on finding him, but there was no reason she would do so, not until he was so close that it no longer mattered. As he drew near the Ascendant Spear's hangar, he slowed his pace. There were more people here, men and women returning from or heading out on shore leave, but none of the off-duty soldiers paid him any special heed. Those coming back to the ship were tired and inebriated, and those leaving were too eager to begin their leave to pay close enough attention to the hooded figure's hidden features to realize he wasn't human. That changed when he reached the two guards on duty at one of the many boarding ramps leading from the hangar floor into the Spear itself. "Who are you?" one demanded, stepping in his path. She moved with a sure confidence that Nosteral recognized all too well. He knew there would be little chance of using the Force to persuade her to let him pass. Should it be necessary, he was ready to resort to violence to get inside, but he thought there might still be another way. He threw back his hood, revealing his alien features. He took deep, slow breaths through his mask, which gave off a deep, angry hiss in response as he tilted his head back slowly to make his tusks more prominent. "My name is Darth Malitaye," he said, dropping his already baritone voice a full octave lower. "I have business with Darth Karad." The guard hesitated but held her ground, and he realized she would need more convincing. The Keldor extended his hand while simultaneously reaching out with the Force to apply a faint pressure on her windpipe. She threw her hands up to her throat, and her eyes went wide with terror as her air supply was cut off. After a few moments, he really released his hold, causing her to collapse to her knees as she took in deep, desperate gulps of oxygen. "When a superior wants to pass," he snarled, "you would be wise to step aside." "Forgive me, my lord," the guard gasped as she crawled out of his way, keeping her eyes carefully averted to the ground. She said, "I will inform Darth Karad of your arrival." "Darth Karad is expecting me. I refuse to wait so my presence can be announced by some groveling worm," he sneered as he brushed past her. The second guard made no move to stop him. Instead, he cowered off to one side, trying very hard not to be noticed. The Jedi moved quickly up the boarding ramp and into the Spear, not certain how long the ruse would work, though the guards hadn't dared to stop him. Once he was gone, they would almost surely inform someone on board the ship of their honored guest's arrival. It wouldn't take long after that for someone to realize something was wrong and order security to hunt down the intruder. Still guided by the power of the Force emanating from Darth Karad, he made his way deeper and deeper into the ship. He would feel He could feel evil and corruption enveloping him, growing steadily stronger during his descent, and he knew it wasn't because of his former Padawan's presence. When Darth Mechas had created the Ascendant Spear, she'd used a combination of experimental technology and Sith alchemy to imbue the ship itself with the energies of the dark side. By the time Nosteral stepped into the turbolift that would take him to the black heart of the vessel, the Jedi was feeling physically nauseated from the effects, but he also sensed he was nearing his goal. As he dropped into the very bowels of the ship, the claustrophobic feeling of the dark side pressing in on him from all sides was so strong that he almost didn't sense the soldiers waiting in the corridor just beyond the turbolift's doors. At the last possible instant, the Force granted him a sudden premonition of the lethal trap. Pulling his green-bladed lightsaber from his belt, he dropped to the ground, pressing himself face down flat on the floor as the turbolift came to a stop on the spear's lowest level. The guards' blaster bolts shredded the turbolift's doors as they slid open, ricocheting over Nostoral's head as they carved an arc at waist height. The Jedi responded by lashing out with the Force, hurling the 4 heavily armored soldiers several meters back down the corridor. Before they even hit the ground, he had sprung to his feet, charging toward them as he threw his lightsaber sidearm. The spinning blade struck the nearest of his foes, slicing through the chest plate of his battle armor and into the vulnerable flesh beneath. The surviving 3 guards didn't try to regain their feet, instead firing wildly at him from where they lay sprawled on the floor. The Keldor angled his charge toward the side wall, leaping and planting a foot halfway up the surface to give him leverage for a high, twisting spin that scraped the ceiling, his arms tucked in close to his chest and his horizontal body perfectly parallel to the floor. The unexpected move again caught the soldiers off guard, their bolts whizzing beneath him. He landed on his feet amid his still prone adversaries, his lightsaber flying back into his hand as he recalled it with the Force. He turned sideways, narrowly dodging fire from the closest soldier, while a pair of quick flicks with his lightsaber deflected the bolts from the other 2 harmlessly off to either side. The hard heel of his boot slammed down on the helmeted head of the man at his feet. At the same time, he used the Force to pick up the other 2 and send them crashing into the ceiling before letting them drop back to the floor. Momentarily stunned, all 3 were defenseless against a quick series of cuts and thrusts from his lightsaber that finished them off. Knowing reinforcements wouldn't be far behind, he raced down the hall and burst through the door at the end, coming face to face with Darth Carad and her 2 apprentices. They were standing in a large circular chamber, his former Padawan in the center, a male human on her right, and a female pureblood Sith on her left. Behind Carad, he could see a large crystal sphere, and on the side wall he saw a small control console. Otherwise, the room was empty. All 3 of his adversaries wore black armor and sported the fierce facial tattoos so common to those who followed the dark side. Their lightsabers were drawn and ready, the shimmering blades casting a crimson glow over the dimly lit room. Clearly, they were expecting him, though whether they had sensed his presence through the Force or had simply been warned by the guards outside, he couldn't say. "I knew you would come for me one day, Nostoral," Carad said, her lips curling into a smile of anticipation. "But even you should know better than to challenge me here on my own ship." "A Jedi pursues the dark side no matter where it tries to hide," he answered. "Noble and foolish as ever," she mocked. "You have no idea of how powerful I've become." "Malgus showed me the true power," she said, her voice slowly rising with each word. "He led me down the path to greatness. He revealed the secrets you dared not face." "He taught me to embrace all the things the Jedi fear," she shouted, her voice echoing off the circular chamber walls. "Now I will use them to destroy you and every follower you have brought onto my ship." "I have come alone," Nostoral replied, remaining calm in the face of her growing anger. "It was my decision to send you to Darth Malgus. I started you on this path. No one else is to blame." "How quaint," she said with a sneer. "I thought you'd led a strike team here to kill me, but you just want to save your Padawan from the perils of the dark side." "I will purge the galaxy of the evil I unleashed upon it," he said, his voice betraying nothing beyond firm resolution. "Whether this ends in redemption or death is your decision, not mine." Carad casually twirled her lightsaber, carving long, lazy circles in the air as her apprentices fanned out to either side, slowly moving into position to flank the Jedi. "I heard tales of your great prowess in battle while I was on Tython," she told him. But during all my years as a Padawan, I never saw any evidence of it. I'm curious to see how badly your reputation has been exaggerated. Nostoral sensed Imperial reinforcements drawing near. Spinning back to the door behind him, he thrust his lightsaber into the access panel on the wall, sending up a shower of sparks as he fried the circuits sealing the door so nobody else could enter the room. He wheeled back to face Carrid and her apprentices and slowly circled to his left, keeping his back against the wall as he tried to gauge the strength of his opponents. "You've given yourself over to the Ascendant Spear," Nostoral warned his former Padawan, holding his own weapon ready in front of him, two hands on the hilt in a classic defensive posture. "It has consumed your thoughts and training. In learning to master this ship, your other skills have atrophied. That is why I don't intend to face you alone," Carrid said. A slight nod of the Faline's head sent her apprentices rushing forward, and Master Nostoral braced to meet their charge. And that is the end of that chapter, leaving us on another cliffhanger. So, that'll be that for tonight. So, thank you, and I will see you in the next one. Tomorrow night, unless something bars me from doing it, I will be reading in the Hiram Key again. So, see you there.
Feeling shattered skies, watching teary blue eyes, wonder where I might find some peace of mind. Not lights like I've had, but more sophisticated into love relations. Now disassembling my own heart, 'cause my mind's a million places and giving up. So it's in my head. Just tell me it's not happening. Tell me it's not happening. Surrender myself. I feel the world collapsing in my ears. Not lights like I've had, but more sophisticated into love relations. Now disassembling my own heart, 'cause my mind's a million places and giving up. So it's in my head. Just tell me